Nice to join you again, Rob, and thanks for the kind words. Yeah, we've had quite a few events on over the last 10 months, but this is one of the first ones where we're talking to a well-established brand that is looking to go into international markets. So without further ado, please let me introduce Cameron Clark, CEO of Sunderstorm and the maker of the finest gummies, Kanha gummy line. So Cam, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Eric. Happy to be here. Happy to chat about all of our all that we're going through, the trials and tribulations in this crazy industry.
Yeah. So I think most people have heard of Kanha, but let's jump in a little bit. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on Kanha, just for those that aren't familiar with your brand?
Yeah. So the Kanha edibles brand is the fourth largest edible brand in the country, in the United States. We started in California back in 2015, and grew until we had the critical mass to be able to scale into other states, and now we're operating Nevada, Massachusetts, and a little bit in Colorado, and soon to be opening in Thailand, as you know, and we'll be talking about that for sure.
Great. So let's start with the US, because there's a lot to talk about with Thailand. We'll get to that, but you kind of went at the market a little bit differently than others. Tell us a little bit about your progression from, like, obviously you realized, all right, we got to get beyond California. We got a good brand here. When you set that whole expansion strategy up, how were you thinking about it, and how did it kind of evolve?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. When we started in 2015, it took us a couple of years to really get a grasp of what this market was like and how to operate in it. I was very deep in the trenches, in the very beginning, doing the deliveries myself, meeting the shop owners, understanding the nuances. And we watch, as we grew in California, we watch other brands do licensing deals in other states. And, we decided that we wanted to hold off until we could win in California. So, we watched those licensing deals. We thought a lot of them didn't really work out as they should. So we just focused all of our energy on dominating and winning in California. And when I say winning, becoming one of the top 10 brands in California, which we achieved in 2019, 2020 timeframe. And once we had that, then we felt like we could expand into these other markets. And that's when we launched into 3 new states simultaneously. We had built out the infrastructure and the support system that we needed to be able to scale quickly into other states. And we felt confident that our brand was strong enough that we could sustain the growth. And we decided not to do licensing deals at that time. So that was a very heavy lift to launch in 3 states, within 3 months of each other. But we accomplished it. Had some hiccups, but I think we did a great job.
Great. We'll touch a little more on that. But like, when you talk about not doing IP licensing deals, right? That is the prevalent model in the industry right now. Most are pursuing that. Some are getting a license in select states here or there, but really it has been let me license my brand and obviously oversee, here are my SOPs and whatnot. But you took a very different approach that allows you to control your own destiny, or at least take on quite a bit of the obligations to production and all these different things. That's a big decision to begin with. In one state, it's more expensive than IP licensing deals, and you did it in 3 states at the same time. Are you a masochist, or are you?
Yeah, I think plenty of people thought that as well, right? And our team got a bit of gray hair in the process, but we learned a lot. And I think the way we looked at it is we weighed a couple things, right? Are we in this for the long haul, or are we just trying to get our brand out there quickly and having people have people understand who we are? And I think when we looked at the long-term strategy, what we decided was a brand is nothing more than trust between a manufacturer and the consumer, right? And in order to build that trust with the consumer, you have to have consistency. We came into this industry from the very beginning because consistency was a fundamental element of why we were here. When we came into the edibles industry, you didn't know what was in an edible, and everybody has their edible experience not feeling something, and then one time later feeling, more than you want to feel, right? So I wanted to come in this industry and build that brand that consumers could rely on from day in and day out, which is why we tested everything from the very beginning. So and we wanted to make sure that if someone bought our products in Massachusetts, they were identical to the products that they're buying in California, and they have the same kind of experience, right? There might be some nuances with each individual market, and we've tested some specific products and LTOs in certain markets, but we wanted to have that consistency. So in order to do that, we felt like we had to do the manufacturing ourselves. We know how to make our products. We understand the challenges that they're faced. We know that there's different environments in different markets, right? It's a lot drier in Colorado than it is in California, for example. And we wanted to make sure that we developed all the technology to be able to create that consistency. So in order to do that, we really felt like we had to do most of it ourselves, and that was a heavy lift. The other thing is we could also control our costs, and we could make sure that we were set up for success over the long term. And we all know this industry is challenging. We all know there's price compression, and if we control our costs and we're the ones that are managing it, then we have the ability to make sure that we can last in these markets over the long haul.
Nice. So you've got you came at it with this kind of fiduciary, if you will, right? That you wanted to be large and profitable in California before you moved into new markets. Then you move into new markets and you want to be more of a traditional CPG company that really focused on the end user, and you felt that it was important to not only control your own destiny, but just kind of run the operation, really. But you didn't actually apply for licenses in those states, right? So there still is a partner opportunity, or there is a partner strategy as part of that. Is that correct?
So you're actually delving into one of our challenges, right? And one of the learnings that we had in our launch experience. So in 2 of the states, we fell under someone else's license. We still did it ourselves. In another state, we actually did it all ourselves. We bought a license. We got our own facility. We did it all ourselves. And I think the lesson that we learned there was it's very costly to set up your own facility and to incur all of the costs to do it, to go it alone. And when there's plenty of investment capital, it's not hard to do that. Yeah. When there's a dearth of investment capital, it's very difficult to do that. And there's very few industries that I can think of where you have to set up a separate manufacturing operation in each state. This is really a new thing about cannabis, right? So we learned along the way, and we really didn't succeed as well as we had hoped in the state where we had tried to go it alone. And we found that we succeeded very well in the states where we had partners that had good experience in the local environment and could help us, right? And we help each other, right? And we focus on each other's best of breed skills, right? And so I think that was the big lesson for us, and I think that's and we're doing that. We're looking for that in every new opportunity that we have. So we're doing it in Thailand. I will announce here that we are opening up very soon in Illinois. We're very excited about that, and we have a partner there as well. So I think that's part of our new mantra is, or a mantra for the last couple of years is, let's find a partner that we can work well with, and let them do what they do best, and let us do what we do best.
Yeah. So when you go into these markets, 3 markets, Illinois going to be 4, obviously Thailand, and you have a model that kind of in partners with licensed operators in those markets, and then you bring in an awful lot. But you talk about the platform that you bring in. I found it really unique that you have started with not only the more logical things of sales and marketing as part of your platform, but I'm talking about the underpinnings of your platform. Talk a little bit about that prep, because I think that is very unique to cannabis, that a company of your size, which is obviously large but not huge, can do what you did. So share with our guests or our audience what you did when you launched into 3 states, or how you prepared for that.
Yeah, I consider us to be a medium-sized company, right? We still in an environment where it feels like we're a startup. So we got to be on our toes every day. I have a software background. I care a lot about. I have an engineering kind of mindset. I care a lot about cost structure. I care a lot about systems. I care a lot about data. And so from as soon as we could begin to afford it, we began investing in our infrastructure, right? And it first started with our production, right? So we automated as much as possible, and I think we automated far more than other competitors of ours in a way that we could keep our cost structure low. So that investment is, I get what you're really talking about is really what I call systems, right? Systems includes everything from software to hardware and equipment to processes, right? And I think this is one of our big assets and where we've invested heavily. And I think it's a huge part of our intellectual property is how we do things and how we leverage technology and hardware to accomplish our goals. So as soon as we could start, we started with the automation of the production. Then we invested in our ERP. It took us four times to actually find the right ERP that we could actually afford. We did learn along the way, which was great, so that when we actually launched the fourth ERP, we were up and running within a year, and it's been incredibly valuable for us. So in order to have the ERP, we have to have a systems team that sets up the systems to manage the ERP and to monitor everything that goes along with the ERP. But we wanted to make sure that our ERP managed everything soup to nuts for the company, including our distribution. So many people may not understand, but we have one of the largest distribution infrastructures in California. We have 13 vans that are driving around the state all day long, every day, right? And that's not to say that we do the same thing in other states. We leverage other infrastructures where we can, but our ERP manages all of this, right? Everything goes into the ERP. We track all the data. We have full cost accounting, and we have the team to be able to generate the report so that we can understand, what I always tell the team, how to twist the knobs to optimize and become efficient. And we're operating in an excess of in all states 55% gross margin. I think that's a KPI which is very important for us, and is one of the reasons that we're profitable. And we can do that because we're able to understand the nuances of all of our costs all along the way. So we can talk a little bit about the cost accounting if you want.
Well, I think it's fascinating that what you just said, it needs to be said again. You went through 4 ERP software systems before you found the one that worked for you, and you got to market very quickly in 1 year, right? I mean, that must have consumed you.
The four were the course of probably 2 years, right? Wow. 2.5 years probably, but the last one, yeah, took us a year to do the full.
First of all, you need to be a pretty decent sized company to even begin to do an ERP. You don't do it on day one, right? But now you've got it, right? It's up and running. What kind of visibility does it give you to run your day-to-day operations? Is it truly the backbone of your organization? And what do you see?
Yeah, so we can see everything from the orders that are going in, right, on an hour-by-hour basis or a daily basis. It's our full accounting system, right? So we can understand our profitability. It manages all of our ties to metrics. So we can see how our vans are driving around the state and what deliveries they're doing. We have a whole customer history of what we're doing on the customer basis. But I think one of the most important things is that what we've done is we've taken it to an extra step that I haven't seen others do, and that is to track all of the individual cost elements that are part of our production and part of our our infrastructure to make and to move the product to the end customer, right? So for us, we include all of the labor. We have full batch accounting, full cost accounting. So what we did, I can walk into any store and pick up a bag of gummies, and I can look at the batch ID on that bag of gummies, and I know the cost of every single one of those gummies, every step of the way through the process in our infrastructure. The reason I did that was because we needed this, it's very difficult to make money in this industry, and we need to know where our costs are higher than they should be, right? So we have full budgets that we put into our ERP. We track budget versus actual expenses month to month. So we monitor, and quarter by quarter. So we monitor, we set our targets on profitability for the end of the year, and then we monitor how we're tracking against that on a month-to-month basis. So if we're spending a little bit more than in marketing than we were supposed to last month, then we adjust in the coming months so that we stay in line with our overall budget. And if our revenue changes, then we adjust our budget targets, right? To me, this is the only way that you can be profitable in this business, is you drive your business towards that profitability. The only way you can drive your business toward that profitability is to have the data to understand how you're tracking every step of the way and what your cost structure is. And that's where we've invested literally millions of dollars to get to this. And by the way, having that is allowing us to scale into these new places, right? These new markets very quickly, because we just set up the systems and we have training SOPs and training personnel that go in and train, set it up, and we're off and running.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that is curious is, I mean, it also gives you some real-time visibility into your supply chain, right? We've got, every market has the the distillate, which is kind of your source for the gummies. The prices can just change by whatever 15-20% from month to month, day to day sometimes. So are there kind of things that you can build into the ERP system that allows the system to alert you to things that are happening in the market? Like, this run of gummies is definitely not 55% because distillate's up $500. Then you kind of adjust and say, well, we got to dial back marketing or what have you. You're running a real-time operation, it sounds.
Absolutely. So that's a great question. And in fact, we do it at different levels. So you're talking on a batch by batch level. So in our production team, right, we have our budgets, right? We know what numbers they have to hit on their batches, right? And so they look at the production team looks on a batch by batch basis what the cost of production was of each of those batches, and they get alerted to anomalies that are outside the scope of what the cost structure is supposed to be. And then they do the and then there are people on staff that do the investigation to figure out what went wrong. Why is this batch higher than that one? Maybe there was more waste. Maybe they had to do they had to invest more labor because something went wrong, right? And so we learn from those mistakes, we optimize, we tighten up our SOPs, and then we try to avoid those mistakes in the future. That's on a batch by batch basis. But then in addition, at a higher level, right, we look at it on a kind of holistically on what is the cost of our production overall, right? And we have things like indirect COGS, right? So we have things like rent and administrative fees and all that play into the light, electricity and all that play into the cost of the infrastructure. We look at that on a month by month basis and see if those are in line with our budgets overall, and then we adjust to that. And I think what's really interesting, you brought up raw materials, right? So California, we had a very interesting blip in the first 4 months of this year, right? The cost of oil out of the blue from Q4 to Q1 and Q2 almost tripled, right? Distillate oil. And so we saw that coming, and we could actually monitor it in our cost structure, right? To understand what the impact of it was. Fortunately, there's only 10 milligrams of distillate in a gummy, so it's very different than a vape, which has a full gram or of distillate. So the impact was a little bit less for us, but we could monitor that, and we do monitor our raw material supply and the cost of that, and we see the impact of that directly on a month-to-month basis. I will tell you that, and this is an important point, one of the single biggest challenges that we've had with our ERP is that when you make a gummy, you don't typically sell that gummy in the same month that you make it, right? And so all of that cost that goes into that gummy has to carry forth into the cost of that gummy when it's sold in the future. And it took us, that was probably one of the single biggest challenges for us, is how do we account for that cost as it's moving forward for something that was done in the past. And I think we finally nailed that. But that was that was a challenge for us in trying to make sure that we understood how we operate.
So net, this is all really contributing to your profitability, right? I mean, it's a pretty competitive advantage, a strong competitive advantage to be able to have this level of visibility. What would be one? We'll end it with this question. What would be one piece of advice that you'd have for another company that was interested in initiating an ERP system deployment?
I think that, I've thought a bit about this, and I think really what it comes down to is to hire the right systems team to manage the entire process. When we looked at this, we said, oh, you know what, we're just going to have to invest in a team up front to launch the ERP. What we didn't really think through is what it meant over the long term and how valuable the systems team would be over the long haul, right? Because once you get it launched, that's just the very beginning, right? And so then it's a matter of monitoring everything, all the data that goes in. It's the same old story, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Our system team all day long, every day, makes sure that monitors all the data that's going in, whether it's from the sales reps or whether it's from procurement or whether it's from distribution or whoever, right? They're monitoring it. They're making sure that the data is accurate and going into the system, right? And then they're building the reports that are coming out so that we can view it in a way which helps us navigate the industry and guide our business. So I would say invest in a really good rock solid systems team that can launch and work on the ERP forever into the future.
Well, I mean, so it's not just the consultants that you're going to have to hire from the company. That's fine. You're going to need some of those to get you started, but it's actually the lifeblood of your organization and treat it as such.
It is, and the consultants they're great in the beginning, but they're too expensive over the long haul, right? So you can't be paying those rates to monitor the whole ERP over the long haul. So you have to invest in the people to do it in-house.
Yeah, great. So one more question then on your U.S. Domestic expansion. So given that you actually have your ideal model is find a licensed partner, and then you kind of come in with probably your own machinery, but then you just deploy your business model. What has been, do you feel then, like, I'm sensing this kind of control your own destiny as a theme here, like you want to be in control of everything to make sure to enable profitability. But what is it that you do in new markets that, all the bud tender education, like sales and marketing, like what is it that you do in a new market, and what do you manage from California into those markets? Like, how do you draw the line of like feet on the street, and where are the critical components of that strategy executed?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And we had this idea from the very beginning, from relatively early on, that we wanted to do this hub and spoke model. So we have, Thunderstorm headquarters here in California. At our headquarters, it's a different, facility than our production facility here in California. And we have, compliance, we have marketing, we have accounting, we have, procurement here. And we wanted to do all the heavy lifting for all the other markets where we're launching into, right? To minimize the amount of cost in those other markets. So we do all those things from California, right? And then in the local market, we have production. Obviously we need a general manager there to manage the production element of it. On the distribution piece, it depends with our partner who exactly does what, but we have to have inventory control. So that flows into kind of fulfillment, some efforts in the fulfillment. And then we have a sales team, and then we have field marketing, right? So feet on the street, right? So in the trenches every day, that's who's out in those markets out in the field. And anything we can do remotely is done from the headquarters, right? So the heavy lifting on marketing, all of our displays, all of our retail marketing programs, the definition of those, all of our merchandise, all of the branding stuff, all the graphic design, that's all done in California at our headquarters, and then that's disseminated out consistently through technology platforms to all of the different markets where they utilize that intellectual property to go sell the brand and be successful.
So these are all Thunderstorm employees in each market doing sales, distribution, marketing, production. I mean, everybody on the team has a vested interest in. There's no outsourced anything really to a third party.
Yeah, yes and no. We don't use it. We don't use anything outsourced. But what we do use is, and it depends on the partner, right? It depends on exactly what their skill sets are. For example, in Massachusetts, we have a great partner there, PVX. They have they have their own products. We're jointly selling. The sales team sells their products and our products together. It's been great for us. Allows us to have a shared cost on the sales there. We do a little bit of kind of joint marketing, but we also have our own field marketing team there. When we launch in Illinois, we will do all of our own fulfillment and manage all the distribution. That's not the way it works. For example, in Nevada, where we have our partner who handles, we kind of jointly do the distribution, but they do the heavy lifting there. So that where we end and they start kind of is a little bit dependent on each individual market, depending on the skills of our partners. But in general, we try to do as much as we can, and we certainly do as much as makes sense to maintain the consistency and all the important aspects of the brand, so that our consumers get the same experience.
Yeah. No, these are real CPG, capabilities that you're deploying. There's no buzzwords. You're not throwing buzzwords around. You're doing it.
No, we're in the trenches.
Yeah. And basically you could at any moment in time, you could look at the data from whether it's a day or a month or a year and be like, this market there's something going on here, and then cross-reference that with what you're hearing in the market, whatever that market may be. But it's pretty impressive.
I mean, that's a really good point too, right? One of the things we learned from the very beginning, which is why we wanted to have our own distribution in California, and we've been fierce about that, is that if we're not in these stores every single day, if we're not out there, we don't understand what's going on in this market. We don't understand the pain points for customers. We don't understand their challenges. We don't understand how to solve their problems. So when we're in these markets and we're doing it ourselves, we can say, oh, hey, you know what? We're facing this issue in California. I just saw something similar in Massachusetts. This is how we solved that problem. Let's address it this way with this particular customer in California. We can leverage what we're learning everywhere to be able to adapt to the challenges that we face every day, which are numerous.
Yeah, no, amazing. And if that was all you were doing, already quite impressive. But now Thailand.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. So let's just start. Why Thailand?
It's really interesting. If you had asked me in 2015 if we were going to be a global cannabis brand, I would have laughed right when we started. I mean, I would have thought, just expanding out of California was going to be a heavy lift. What we found, which I'm very proud of and really is exciting for us, is that we've had our challenges, we've made our mistakes over the years. We do the best we can, but in the end, we have built a powerhouse brand. People do love Kanha, right? And they love what we stand for, right? And so what we're finding is that folks are approaching us frequently and saying, hey, you know what? We have this opportunity. Hey, we'd like you to come join us in this market. So it kind of came across the transom through one of our partners, this opportunity in Thailand. My background, by the way, way back when in previous lives, was that I started my career doing international trade. So I was buying and selling products around the world. So I have a lot of understanding of global markets and how they operate. So when this came across the transom, I thought, oh, this is super interesting. And I will tell you that initially we thought, well, maybe we will do a licensing deal there. It's very far away. The opportunity came 2 weeks later. Or 3 weeks later, I was on a plane, went over there, went to a conference, looked at the opportunity and said, wow, this is actually going to be a great market. This is a great opportunity for us. We need to come in and we need to do this. We need to do the heavy lifting ourselves, just like we're going to do in Illinois, right? And so we've ended up, we worked with a partner. They have great relationships. They bring a lot to the table. And we started the conversation, and now we're marching down the path to do something very similar to what we're doing in the US, right? And it leverages all the infrastructure that we've built and the systems we've built, and we can open up very quickly using all the same stuff that we have here.
Makes sense. So your partner over there must, I mean, I have to imagine there's some political connections that they have to have garnered the license to begin with. Is the difference between an international partner and a domestic partner in some respects very slight, in terms of like everybody needs to have gone through the process to get the license, and they have to have local relationships? And I mean, is there anything, because it does seem like your model is plugging in to Thailand just as it plugged into Nevada, Massachusetts, and now in Illinois. What are the things that partner brought to the table that were different than what maybe a US state partner might bring to the table?
So let me start this by saying that for the last 20 years, I have said that the single hardest thing in business is picking your partners. And I've had enough failures in my life to know that it's super challenging, right? And so, this is one of the reasons, we're not in, 10 or 15 states in the US, right? We move slowly and methodically. We go to places where we can actually make money. We have our certain specifications on why we enter markets. They have to be a certain size, etc. And so so there's some basic partnership kind of philosophies that where we have to work well together, right? We have to understand each other, right? And there's challenges in the globe, right? Because you have cultural differences, and you have to be able to address those and understand those, right? But yes, our partners were one of the very first, licensees back in 2018, 2019 timeframe for medical licenses in Thailand, right? They're already operating medical clinics. They have doctors on staff. They've got cultivation, and so they're already out there, kind of they've already started building their business, and they just need some acceleration. They just need some horsepower, right? So they were smart enough to realize that if we bring in this expertise and this brand from the United States, instead of growing at kind of this pace, we can accelerate that growth, right? It's the same thing that adding capital does to a business, right? It just changes the slope of the curve, right? So that you get more bang for your buck. And now having us come in and bring us in will do the same thing for them, right? So yes, they have the licenses. They have great political connections and local market expertise. I wouldn't try to do it without that. It doesn't make sense. Certainly not in a foreign country, right? There's all kinds of challenges there. There's challenges in the US doing it without having a full understanding of the local market. I mean, I didn't want to start in Nevada, for gosh sakes, without having a local partner, because Nevada's got its own politics and its own challenges, and there's only approximately 100 stores. So you have to have some local knowledge in each market which you enter, and in a foreign country, that story is even more important.
Yeah. Now, I think your partner must have been thinking, oh my gosh, thank God these guys are willing, and their model commits so significantly to support the partnership. Because if they are just getting their feet wet and just launching, and to launch a gummy with an IP licensing deal where they have to do everything is probably daunting, to say the least. So now they're probably delighted they found a partner that is willing to swarm it, if you will, right? To come in with the whole like soup to nuts, and like, we got this, and they're gonna benefit because your product's gonna help sell their products. I mean, it really seems like a win-win.
That market looks like California, like, about 8 or 9 years ago. That's what Thailand looks like today. It's a full rec market the doors are blown wide open. We'll see how how things evolve over time. They don't have the regulatory system set up yet. It's definitely the wild, wild west. And they just realized that by bringing in the expertise early, they could leapfrog everybody else. And you know, it's not going to take, you know, 4 or 5 years for them to be a dominant player in the Thai market. We can get there in 12 months or less.
So is there any like one thing or two things from a regulatory models perspective that is completely different? Like are there different dosing requirements or not? Or like, is there anything, or is it really similar? I mean, do you just, is it modest changes to your system, or is it like, okay, this is really different?
Honestly, every state in the US is different.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have packaging nuances and differences in every state. We've got regulatory thing, we got, you know, paperwork, different paperwork. It's honestly, it's not that much different. And to be honest, I mean, to be truthful, Thailand is still building out the infrastructure. So, you know, that will evolve over time. And I think that we will be involved in that process of helping them define their regulations. That's going to be a great role for us. We have good political connections, right? And we can make sure that they set up the market in an appropriate fashion. So I don't see that that's that much different. It's challenging everywhere we go.
Yep, and it sounds like blocking and tackling with your ERP systems. Yes, you're going to have supply chain visibility in Thailand. You're going to have everything you need. You're going to support the sales and marketing. It's basically cookie cutter from the perspective of I will say, well, it's certainly not asset light. It's not necessarily asset heavy, but it's just a very specific model that you're just going to do over and over again. And it sounds like the fact that it's Thailand is really, it's just another market, right? It's
just another market. But, and the truth is that we're not, our systems aren't rigid. We have this intellectual property, these systems that we have. There are certain parts of it that are rigid, right? And the way we have to monitor things and all of that. But we know that this thing has to adapt into each new market, right? And that's what we've learned over the last 3 years, is how to take our systems and adapt them very quickly to new markets. And those systems include everything from compliance to how we do production in different climate controlled and different environments with different climates, right? To, you know, how we deal with the nuances of the consumers and the customers that are a little bit different in the way they think about products, right? So you can't be too rigid, but you have to have something that has structure.
Yeah. Well, there does seem to be quite an influx of California brands going into Thailand, right? You're not alone. So, but by the same token, it does seem like it has the potential to be a jump off spot for the rest of Asia at a minimum. You know, I mean, did you ever think like we need to be in Germany, we need to be in Colombia? Did you like, was this a international study where you ended up saying, I want to be in Thailand after researching it? Or was it just like that this was very unique relative to other opportunities you've seen?
I think we look at it the same way we looked at expansion in the US, right? Even from the relatively early days, we started getting calls and interest from folks that wanted to bring our brand into other states. They wanted to license. You know, we've all, in the same way, we've been kind of, I mean, we kind of monitor the national market and try to get an understanding about which states were, you know, more interesting than others. And I'd say we've done kind of something similar with the international market. You know, I've been watching, you know, what's going on in Germany and Europe and Colombia and Brazil and Australia, etc. Right? But we never really, we had some folks approach us, but nothing really seemed right. And we just wait for the right opportunity, and we jump, and we're ready to jump on those opportunities when they come, right? And I think that's an important thing. We did that when we launched in the U.S., and we're doing the same thing on our global choice, right? So Thailand has a lot of things about it that make it a great jump-off point for us to be able to build one of the first truly global cannabis brands. And that's what I'm excited about, right? So I'm shifting the way we do things here in the U.S. so I can focus more of my energy on the global market, I've been laser focused on this for the last 3 or 4 months, and I think there's great opportunity for us, and we will continue to build in the same way we've built in the U.S. And I will say that we have a huge advantage in the U.S. We make great products and we have great brands in the cannabis space. We are leading the charge, right? And unfortunately, we're hampered by our own government, the federal government, so that we can't export from this country in any meaningful way, right? So we have to look for other ways to do that. And it doesn't matter where I go in the world, people know our brand, people love our brand. I'm blown away at how the U.S. and U.S. products and California products, to be honest, are we'll call it West Coast, are perceived to be best of breed, and that gives us a huge advantage. And we should all be jumping to grow in these global markets, because it's a great opportunity for us and for our country.
So does Thailand become your hub for global export?
Yeah, that's my plan today. It looks like we have export licenses. We're setting ourselves up to be an exporter. It will take some time. It's complicated. The global market is very complicated. It's mostly there's really no recreational aspect to it. It's all medical, but that's great. We love medical. We love how cannabis heals, and that's been one of our mantras from day one. We want to lead people to a life of wellness, and wellness means healing. So, selling medical products exported from Thailand is completely consistent with our overall strategy and ethos.
Yeah, it sounds like when you go back to the beginning here, you said, well, we wanted to make sure we were legit in California before we went into new markets. Now, I imagine, when will you launch in Thailand? When will we be able to buy Kanha gummies in Thailand?
We should be in the market by Q4.
Okay, great. So you get that under your belt, you get that thing up and running, spend whatever 6-12 months getting that thing going, and then you'll look into new international markets as using the network that Thailand.
We're already looking. We're already planning. It's already part of our overall strategy. So we're building out all of our models right now.
Wow.
And strategies.
Well, so one question is like, what's the end game? You're going to be one of the largest global brands, as opposed to you mentioned you're number 4 in the US. You got 3 folks ahead of you, but what is your vision
in the edible space, right?
In the edible space, of course. Yeah. What does success look like for you, and what is the kind of the end game for you to be this dominant global player?
You know what? I would say that success, really, the way I look at it is, really, I want to be one of the first global cannabis brands. I know that we can be successful. We want to grow dramatically. We think there's a lot of opportunity for us to grow. How much we grow and what the slope of that curve is depends on a lot of nuances and in the global markets. And it also depends on capital, resources that are available to us. For example, capital. I do think there's a lot of opportunity as we build our global brand to get solid investment capital, which is not really available in the U.S. today. And I think that will help us grow our business. But we are doing the blocking and tackling and building out the infrastructure so that we can be one of the dominant global cannabis brands. But we're doing it in a way, we're doing it slowly, we're doing it methodically, and we're doing it profitably, right? So, we have made the decision that we're not only top line focused. We are top line and bottom line focused, and we will grow our business accordingly. I think early on we were very top line focused, but now we're I think in the last 3 years we've looked at it quite differently. And so being a little more bottom line focused means that the slope of growth is a little bit slower, but that's fine. You know what? We're lined up to do what we need to do, and happy to grow.
Well, I mean, we're in the early innings over here in the U.S. Thailand has got to be, this is a pregame warm up, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's early days. When you went into
But we can
Thailand,
make money, but we can make money there. We can build a profitable business in Thailand. Like this is not, this is for us, this is not, saying, oh, gee, it's great to have this story. No, we're choosing markets that are big enough and where we can actually make money and drive our consistent gross margin that we need to drive.
did you do kind of that TAM analysis of Thailand? Did you figure out what that total addressable market was, or was that like finger in the wind? Or are you going off of like reports from third parties? I mean, how did you kind of
There's
determine
about there's about 4,000 or 5,000 retailers in Thailand right now.
that? Wow.
There's 70 million. It's a country of 70 million people. There's 40 million. Somewhere between 30 and 40 million tourists, right? It's a plenty big market. The estimates are that it's going to be, combined with hemp, it's going to be, around a $2.5 billion market. I think that TAM is low. I think it's going to be much larger than that, and they say that by 2025, 2026 timeframe. So I'm a little bit more optimistic than that. I will tell you that our overall strategy, it typically is that we choose markets that are in excess of that are at least 1 billion in size, right? That's kind of a sweet spot for us because it's hard to make money in smaller in our business. It's hard to make money in smaller markets, and they don't do a lot. They don't do much for you. So, Thailand fits the bill. I mean, it's just we're not. I wouldn't say that we're doing anything differently in the way we perceive Thailand than the way we perceive it launching in a new state in the U.S., for example, Illinois.
Has there been any difference in terms of just adoption of the form factor gummies in Thailand? Like, did you know that it was already a form factor, or are you going to be blazing the trail to say, hey, folks, there's this thing called gummies, and we make them? I mean, where are you on the continuum of like, where's the risk, right? Where's the risk in that?
I think the risk in Thailand is higher than it is in other markets, right? But the reward is also higher. So that was part of our decision-making process. I think our margins we have the opportunity for better margins, and I think that is how I balance the risk assessment. Gummies have been sold in Thailand in the black market there for years, right? It is not a new form factor. So they're there, right? Just like they've been in other states in the U.S. before they went legal as well. So, I think that's just, there'll be nuances, no doubt, right? The balance between medical and rec and how that works, it's, we have to do this, but I don't think we're going to have to take sharp left-hand turns or sharp right-hand turns or go in reverse. I think we're just going to have to tack the ship as we go along, just like we do in any other market.
Yeah, no, it's not a pivot. It's an adjustment, right? It's tweaks as you're used to. Yeah. So the partner has been critical. Your model going forward into new markets, be it U.S. or international, it's really all it's the partner. The partner is critical, but then you bring your systems and your infrastructure into the market. Anything else that you would say is kind of mission critical KPI for you when you kind of go into these new markets? Is there any lessons learned of like, this is a little bit different, or not? What are the other KPIs that you're going to want to monitor to know that you're tracking right? Because you don't have any sales yet, but you feel very comfortable that it's tracking exactly as you laid out, or nuances. But what are those kind of, what are those pitfalls or potential areas to avoid?
Yeah, what I mean for us, we look at the world, like I said, the initial filter is, $1 billion market opportunity, right? That's kind of like where we're focused on today. Beyond that, I think that we want to launch in a place where we know that we can have consistency. Right, consistency of brand, consistency of products, consistency in our relationship with the consumers and with the retailers. That also plays into our partnership, right? We also need to have, you mentioned the partner, but it's also what does the partner bring to the table, right? Sure, we want to do a lot of the heavy lifting ourselves, but we need a partner who is very, very rigorous on compliance and regulatory affairs and understanding the nuances of their own markets, right? So that's very important, and also a partner who is fierce on cost, right? Keeping costs low. There have been way too many experiences in this industry where there's just no sensitivity to cost whatsoever, and you build a business and you raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and next thing you know, you're out of business. So you can't. You have to have partners that understand that, but and are in the boat with you, paddling in the same direction along those lines, right? So I think that's kind of the way we look at it. I mean, and ultimately, it's about building our brand in a profitable way. We have to make sure that we can get to in excess of a 50% or 55% gross margin. And if we don't believe that, then we shouldn't be in that market.
Do you find yourself like paying attention to like the elections over there a little closer, or like are you because at the end of the day, like there are gotchas out there, right? It's not a risk-free endeavor, as we know, but how close were you paying attention to what was going on politically and continue to do so?
Very close, very closely. Yeah, super important, right? It's a risk. I mean, the way I would address it is this. This business is risky from soup to nuts, and you get arrows fired at you in every direction all day long, every day. so the way we manage that is that we model each market very in high detail. We know how many stores. We know we estimate the number of consumers and how that grows over time. We estimate the location. Where are those stores? Where are the retailers? What are the demographics of the market, right? And so you talk about TAM, but that's one way to look at it, but it's really all the nuances. And we model how does our business grow over 2 to 3 years with all the detailed costs associated with that, so that we can see when we get to profitability, and we can estimate our cash flow needs. And these models that we built are highly sophisticated and very detailed. And so and that mitigates the general business risk, and then we twist the knobs along the way so that we can maintain our profitability. Then we can manage. Then the only risks that are the bigger risks that we face are political risks, right? Challenges and cultural risks in the market, or a variety of other things, right? So the other exogenous issues that come across our plate. So I would like to try to mitigate the risks that we have to manage to those things that are really exogenous. And I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it does. What it sounds like to me is that we investment bankers run around and talk about total addressable market and fundraising and all this, and you're looking at that and say, yeah, that's really important, but I'm going to do a ground up model. I'm not going to I'm not going to make any assumptions, because in projections, the projections always work, right? But that doesn't help you if you have limited access to capital like the cannabis companies do. And it's like, you can believe your own BS, but you actually need to kind of look at this holistically and like, okay, at the highest level, it's $1 billion market. I got a good partner, and here's what's going on with the consumers, and here's the projected growth. But that's not enough. That's not your ticket. You've got to actually take all that and say, all right, so let me build this whole thing from the ground up, and slowly roll out, if you will, a profitable business that can generate 55% gross margins. That's
how many men? No, it's not. How many managers do I need? How many production staff do I need? How many sales reps do I need? How many field marketing do I need? How much am I going to invest in merchandising? Like all of these things. But what is my startup capital? Where does it go? Like all of this goes into a model that we project out for 3 years, complete bottom up. Right. It took us a couple of years to really hone this model, but it's a great piece of IP that we have that helps us really understand whether or not a market will work for us.
Last question for you. How cool will it be to walk into a store in Thailand and buy Kanha gummies?
You know what? it's super exciting. I mean, I can't wait for the day when that will happen. You know, I personally have always had a great affinity towards Thailand. I love Asia. Our brand is actually, you know, has an Asian influence. I don't know if you noticed that, but we have a mandala, you know, behind the tiger's head. We have a third eye of a cannabis leaf on the tiger. The tiger is an Asian tiger. You know, we really wanted to bring some of the Eastern philosophy and ethos to our cannabis brand, which is very consistent with Thailand. And it's super exciting for us to be launching in the very first market in Asia to legalize cannabis. And it's a dream come true, to be honest. I never really thought we would get there.
Yeah, amazing. Well, you're about, sounds like you're about 90 days away or so, and I'll be certain to be looking at flights to Thailand and come over there and join you for a few gummies.
Happy to do
Awesome,
so.
Cam.
Right.
Fascinating story. Kudos to everything you've achieved. Everyone will be tracking you very closely, and we're looking forward to continued success in the new markets. So thanks for coming on the show today. We're going to wrap it up. Appreciate you and everyone else for joining. And we obviously our sponsor, Paybotic. Thank you for sponsoring this webinar. And we will be back live with new guests to be determined real quickly. Like there it is. No, September 27th. Thank you very much. Will be our next guest with the folks, also a gummy manufacturer in the U.S. So anyway, Cam, thanks for coming. Everybody, thanks for joining. Great stuff. Continued success.
Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Great stuff. Bye-bye.